So essentially, like at a certain point, the movie just becomes him running away from the people that are trying to kill him that were sent by the Soylent Company. The movie ends with him like discovering in the factory that they are in fact dumping bodies, and that's what Soylent is made out of. And so he tries to escape to tell somebody. Essentially, I think he's trying to get back to the priest that he doesn't know has already been murdered.
He wants to get to the exchange, which is so Saul, the bookie, he's got this like small group of former judges and lawyers and stuff who are posted up, I guess, at like the library, someplace with a lot of books. And it's these old people who just sit there and read and try and collate data. That's called the exchange. And Saul goes to them with the oceanographic texts that Thorn stole from the victim's house. That it's a survey regarding all the plankton and stuff that the Soylent product is ostensibly made out of. He brings it to them, and then together they all go through it and realize, oh shit, the report reveals that there's not enough plankton to make Soylent. Like it can't be done. So they, by researching this, prove that Soylent Green is made out of people, but they don't. We, the audience, don't hear that. We just hear them saying like, "Holy shit! We just proved something nuts. We've got to figure out how to prove this." So then Saul, right? So Saul, he goes back to his apartment and he's miserable, having just found out what he found out. So throughout the movie, he's been saying, I want to go home. I want to go home. One day I'm going to go home. And you don't really know what that is until finally he says, all right, I'm going home after this terrible news is revealed to him. Going home means he goes to this facility that's got air conditioning and people in white robes hold the door open for you. And they ask you your favorite color and they're all very nice to you. And what it is it's this big complex where people voluntarily come in and kill themselves. It's an assisted suicide facility where they fill a room with the light of your favorite color. They play your favorite kind of music and you lie on a bed and you drink a potion like Socrates did. And on this gigantic like IMAX screen, they play nature scenes from the old world. And you just watch beautiful scenes of Earth as your favorite music plays as you slowly fade away and die. So that's what Saul is doing. He leaves a note for Thorn. Thorn gets the note just in time. He races to the place to see Saul for one last time. And in that moment, Thorn is able to, like, by strong-arming the guy who runs the place, he's able to see Saul and hear him and talk to him while he's in this suicide chamber, which means that Thorn is now seeing video footage of the world that Saul has been telling him about, but he never got to see. And this is one of the best scenes in the movie, dude. The music is tremendous. I think it's called Morning Mood by Grieg. The piece, it's so good. And you're just waterfalls and flowers and deer running around. And Thorn starts crying.
Well, and I'm assuming it's designed to be the counterpunch to the opening credits of the movie, which is kind of the same, but you're watching it deteriorate to the point where like we find ourselves at the very beginning. But like it was a very old timey music. Like the scenes are beautiful and like it looked like they honestly took like actual photos from different time periods to make the opening sequence. But back to the narrative.
Right. So in this scene, we're just seeing the most beautiful pictures of nature, and Saul is like fading out, and he's saying, "Do you see it? Can you see it? Was I right?" Referring to how beautiful the world used to be. And Thorn is crying, and he's like, "Yes. How could I have ever imagined that this was the world?" Like, it's just such a freaking great scene, dude. I love it. It's so good, and the acting is wonderful. And so then as this is going on, Saul starts kind of going like, hey, you know, there's information about Soylent before I go. And of course, the machinery that's letting them communicate stops working. So Thorn doesn't hear the thing, the piece of information. He just hears Saul say, you've got to prove it, you've got to prove it. And then he dies. And so then the people come back in and they remove his body from the room. And Thorn, being this kind of precocious digger for information, for whatever reason, he's animated now by this need to figure out what's going on. He sneaks out of the facility and follows the people and sees that they're loading the bodies from this suicide place into these trucks. So he hops on one of the trucks and it takes him to this disposal facility. And this is where he finds out that Soylent Green is made out of people. So, like, Saul's body was taken right after he died to a food processing facility and converted into crackers. Like, so that's the reveal. That's what happens. And this is how he finds out that Soylent Green is made out of people. Very disturbing for him, I imagine. So he's got to escape the facility. Of course, people see him there and he fights his way out. And so all of this is to say he's got to get back to the exchange and tell them, look, Soylent Green is made out of people. I've seen it. And now we have to do something about it. But these are the people that have the documents, the actual proof that you would use in court. Thorn is a witness to the process and could, like, theoretically lead people there.
Yes, it's corroboration.
Exactly. And we don't know what happens. The movie ends with Thorn getting in this shootout with a company hitman in a friggin' like church. It's so good because the church is like
the church is interesting because that's also in his last days, the rich guy wanted to go to confession, and you can see like how messed up the preacher is when they get there, and he tries to play it off like he's just tired, but you can tell that it's from the gravity of what he was told in confession by this character. And because the cop won't let it go, the priest is killed, so he can't tell anyone.
So the rich man had been to confession before he died, which struck everybody as weird. I also like that the whole thing, when they find out he went to church, everybody was like, oh, what? Who goes to church? Like Thorn was like, what the hell? Like, who goes to church? That's weird. It's weird that people would go to church.
Rich people don't go to church.
Rich people don't go to church. Poor people, sure. Poor people live in the church. But it struck everybody as strange. This guy who had, like, you know, beef and prostitutes, why would he go to church? I think at one point Thorn says, like, if I were that guy, you wouldn't catch me in church. You know, it's a point of suspicion. So the priest is the first person we are introduced to, aside from the victim, who knows the secret that Soylent Green is people. But being a priest, he can't reveal what was confessed to him. But when Thorn meets with him, this guy's just like walking around with wide eyes and kind of muttering to himself. And at one point he does say, like, Jesus Christ, I can't handle this information. And Thorn's like, what? And then the guy just like collapses onto the stairs and it's just like, I can't. So it's really bad, whatever it is. But he winds up getting killed. So this is where the movie ends, in the church, where poor people are just living. So as the shootout is going on, Thorn and the hitman are stumbling over sleeping homeless people. And a lot of the homeless people get shot by the assassin, you know, because he's just trying to kill Thorn. So he winds up catching some of these poor bastards, you know.
Well, there's even a certain degree to which Thorn is using them as shields. So once again, Thorn is not a hero. Not in the classical sense.
No. Yeah, you're right. He's definitely using them as cover. But in the end, he gets shot. It's not clear if it's fatal. We don't know if Thorn is going to die. but he falls down. He does get the assassin. The assassin's killed. Backup shows up. The rest of the cops show up. And Thorn tells his boss, Soylent Green is made out of people. You got to tell them. You got to tell the people. You got to get out there. You got to show them Soylent Green is people. And the movie ends. And you don't know.
Now that's the thing. You say you don't know, but the thing is that we already know that the Soylent Corporation controls every industry. We know that his boss is not one to not be bought off. So, I mean, from where we're at, I'm assuming that whatever the ambulance they put him into is going to drop him directly off the Soylent factory, maybe put a bullet in his head on the way, and that the cop is going to enjoy a nice paycheck and some beef himself and move along with life exactly as it's always been.
Yeah. The only hope, I guess, would be that the information that Soylent Green is people would be so disturbing to that guy. Hacker, I think his name is, Hatcher, the boss cop. He would be so disturbed by that revelation that he would have to like feel compelled to do something about it. That's the only hope.
And the thing is, at no point in that conversation, honestly, did it sound like he was surprised by the information.
Yeah. It sounded like he was entertaining the ramblings of a madman. He's like, all right, little buddy. All right, buddy.
Yes. Either he doesn't believe him or he already knew and didn't care.
Right. So it doesn't look very good for humanity.
Yeah, not at all.